alo loa poli ahu, ka poli me hana, I ka makani hawanu, ki hau o lino ka uhi vai, ke iho maila, ai, ka hoa ia no, e hea mai ana, hui, velina, velina.
Okay.
So you want to get started?
Yeah, let's get started. I'd like to start with a prayer if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Would you say the prayer?
Yeah, I'd be happy to say the prayer. Oh, Amakua, we are so excited to be here and have another Ohana meeting and share with our friends and family the message that we received about Huna and be able to help them step more into the place of being conscious, awake, and self-realized. Thank you for all the messages you've given us, and thank you for this Huna that when we take the skills and use them in our life, they work, and we end up with a lot more enlightenment and understanding of what's going on. Help us to have a great meeting, and people feel free to ask their questions so that we can help them in their lives. And we ask that Lono can have a clear mind and be able to bring through whatever wants to come through tonight. And we say this humbly, mindful of our divinity, and in the spirit of aloha. Haye. Amen.
Oh,
Cool.
boy, if Lono has a clear mind tonight, it's going to truly be a miracle.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking that we maybe ought to move that table out of the way and have you scoot
Oh,
closer to
okay.
me.
Yeah, I can do that.
So, we appreciate those of you who have shown up on time. Generally, what happens is we start out and we wind up with everybody checking in about 15 or 20 minutes late. So that's give us the time to talk
Say
to
hi to
folks
everybody.
and try to understand who all is there. So we were just talking to Gary. And Gary, you want to just introduce yourself to whoever's there?
Yeah, I just had my pill alarmed. I had to make it shut up because it irritates the crap out of me. Yeah,
You take your pill. That's the main thing.
yeah, or plural, lots of pills.
Good.
I guess I should say I've known Lodo and Lanny for quite a while, probably about 15 years or
13,
so.
14 years. Yeah, because we got Rocky from you 13 years ago.
Yeah. So I usually can't count that high, but anyway, I've known these guys for a while. I've always got along with them, and we're kind of started out as friends more than anything.
Yeah.
But also always interested in learning something about Huna or anything else, sort of intellectually and different perspectives. I think it's great. But I've had a lot of life changes. I've gone through 2 strokes and a heart attack, and I'm still here. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to recover and rebuild, and I've changed quite a bit the way I think from doing studying and praying and pondering, and that's kind of my story. I got a long ways to go, but I think I'm headed in the right direction.
Great.
Thank you, Gary. I think you are. Okay, we have a new lady here, Labiana.
Is that how you say your name?
Do you want to take yourself off of mute?
Unclick mute. No, that's okay. You can be anonymous if you want to be. And then there's Jason, our son.
Yeah,
And we're
Jason.
happy to have him listening in too. Thank you, Jason.
Would you
You're welcome.
introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Jason, your son.
Thank you, Jason. That was it.
That was just in case Lona was confused. So
Yeah, right. We have to remember he's our son.
Well, I think tonight is a particularly, we have another person, Stacy.
Hi, Stacy.
Stacy, would you like to unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Hi, I was invited by a friend of a friend, so I haven't actually participated in this group yet. So, hi, aloha.
Aloha. Thank you for coming and joining us. We appreciate it a lot. You have a great smile, by the way. Your whole face
Thank
smiles,
you.
your eyes and your mouth. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm getting over a chest cold, so I'm glad that that still comes through.
Oh, yes, very
That's
good.
great.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Well, we're expecting quite a few people. A lot of people are late tonight again, but that's, I guess we just have to deal with it and they'll have to miss what they miss.
Mhm.
I think tonight is a particularly important one because I want to go over how to look at life so that you can see what's real as opposed to something that is a belief. And I want to start right now with talking about the word God, G-O-D. I find it sad personally that that word creates so much trouble in this world. It's a simple word, and you would think that people would be able to agree about it, but they don't, and they haven't for thousands of years. It has been the engine that has produced an awful lot of pain, a lot of war, a lot of division between people. Everybody needs their God to be the real God, the true God. And we have all of these uh, ideas about who God is, what God is. So I want to start there. And actually, I'm going to want to start with the core of all of it. And I'm going to be asking questions. So I encourage you, if you have any answers or would like to throw in your 2 cents about what we're talking about as we go along, I want to really encourage you to do it because tonight's a great time to do it. But I want to start off with you. One thing we do in Huna is we always begin with what we can know for sure. And what we can know for sure, what you can know for sure is that you exist. You exist. And all the rest of the stuff out there starts there. You exist. And when you look at yourself and your existence, what you can know for sure is that you're connected to a mother and a father, or you wouldn't be here. Your mother and father each had mothers and fathers, and we can go backwards in time until we can realize that who you are is connected to everyone and everyone on this planet. I am a person who is a scientist. I've been very much involved in biochemistry and astrogeophysics and nuclear physics and quantum mechanics. All of those things have always held a special interest for me. And what we can know for sure is that we're all connected to everything. We're all connected to everything. Isn't that true?
Mhm.
Can you name me anything to which you are not connected?
I'd say physically and spiritually.
Mhm.
Right. Well, when I say everything, I mean spiritually.
Mhm. And physically.
So we would say that what we can know for sure is that the world of form is made out of matter and energy. And matter and energy are the contents. The container is space and time. True? Matter, energy, space, and time, the contents and the creator. And all of that came into existence, according to science, the best we know right now, pretty much at one time. It's called the Big Bang Theory. And I don't know, I think we're discovering more and more about that theory as time goes on, and we're starting to see some need for some changes to that theory. But time is interesting. It's a container. But what we know for sure about space and time is that the containers are not stable and uniform, are they? What we know is that gravity can affect those containers. And gravity can affect those containers dramatically. And we've just come to the awareness in the last month or so in terms of quantum mechanics that light doesn't travel in time. The idea that light has a speed turns out not to be real. That from light's point of view, it moves instantaneously from one place to another. And that helps explain the whole idea of entrainment and why if a photon is split and sent into two different directions instantaneously, if you change the direction of one, it changes the other direction of the other, even though at that point it's, maybe perhaps, if by our reckoning, millions of light years away. So light doesn't have time, interestingly. And you know what else doesn't really exist the way we think it does? Space. And objects like particles, electrons, small atomic particles, muons, gluons, all of these things that we've discovered, they don't exist the way we think that they exist. They don't comply with Newtonian laws of physics. 1 minute they can be here, and the next minute they can be, the next instant, they could be on the surface of the sun, the surface of a star in the Big Dipper, the surface of an electron in my brain can appear in Gary's brain. And we have an interesting idea that may carry thought, that telepathy is very real. Dogs may be better at this than people are because they're not so trapped by their minds. But the point is that these particles not only can just disappear in one spot and appear mysteriously at another spot, but they can all of a sudden just disappear. And then another particle can just reappear. And, this completely upsets the Newtonian ideas of physics where, we can't create something out of nothing. That was another great big problem that Einstein had with quantum mechanics. But we have experiments now. We can observe it all the time, and it's true. These particles go in and out of existence. And from my death experience, and when I went there and visited the spirit world, what I came to realize is that the spirit world is the quantum world. And not only do small particles go in and out of existence, which I think represents going from the physical world into the spiritual world, so do you when you die. And you will have some experiences that are pretty interesting and impressive. We've talked a lot about that in previous meetings, and I don't want to go into it here, but I just want to make the point that whoever you are, you're connected to everything, everything, the all that is. You're connected, and you're made out of the all that is. And I'll tell you where all the problems are coming from when it comes to God. And it's a serious problem because it's causing wars, it's causing disrespect, it's causing difficulty beyond comprehension. And that's the concept of an anthropomorphic God. I think it's quite understandable that human beings in our history have evolved and we've come to know various things. And it's very easy to cast this concept of God into an anthropomorphic idea that God is a man, God had a son, so gender gets involved in all of this, and God looks like us. Wow. Well, I don't think so. I think that God is the only definition for that word that can make any sense is what the Hawaiians basically said, and that is God is all that is. All that is. Everything in the world of spirit, everything in the world of form.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the Bible, I can't remember the exact words. Maybe you know, Gary, if you know your Bible better. But it says that God is the Omega, the first and the last, or
Alpha,
every-
Alpha and Omega. Yeah.
yeah. So they're saying in the Bible that too, right? Isn't that what that means?
Well, I think that it can easily mean that. It depends on which religious denomination
Right.
you want to get in an argument with.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you believe in an anthropomorphic God, then you got to constantly argue to invalidate science. You got to constantly argue to invalidate any other religion that doesn't agree with you.
Right.
Isn't that true?
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's why I find interesting about the Bible. There's so much conflicting stuff, in the sense of stuff like that. You'll read the Bible, and in certain places it talks about God being a man and that's his son. And then in other parts it says God is all that is. It's everything. It's the beginning and the end. So I found the Bible very confusing in certain areas because of that.
okay. The point I'm wanting to make here, and I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
The point I'm wanting to make is that when we look out at the universe at the nighttime and we see all of those stars in the sky, they're incredible. The amount of planets that exist just in our own galaxy that are now discovered to be in the habitable zone. What expectation do we have that conscious life, if it developed in other worlds, that it would look exactly like us? How does that make any sense? Do you think that's likely?
I don't know.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I think definitely. The other thing you brought up, which is right on the money, James Webb telescope. Okay.
Yeah.
That has turned everything upside down. And that's when you brought up what scientists thought they knew, now they see things they don't have a clue. They're like, that's not supposed to be happening. And it's like, well, what are you seeing? And that's what is for real.
Yeah. So we're looking at millions of planets in our own galaxy that has hundreds of billions of stars. And now we know that there are literally trillions of galaxies, each of which have hundreds of millions of planets. Would it be reasonable to say that God is not the God of all of those galaxies? Is there lots of creators out there, each doing their own thing? Or did God create it all with a conscious plan?
Mhm.
And that's something for you to ponder and to think about. And it's something for you to ponder to think that God can't be confined into the pigeonhole that comes across as a human being. God doesn't do that. God is ultimate consciousness. And I know that for a fact because I've died twice and I met God. I know who God is. I know that each of us have a divine light inside of us, that consciousness. There's three things that make up the universe: matter, energy, and consciousness. And our consciousness, our spirit, is a part of every spirit. God's the proper definition of spirit is that it's not a ghost out there, although those things do exist. But spirit is a dimension of awareness. It's consciousness. It's the part of us that can develop an understanding of meaning. Meaning. And that is not meaningless. Meaning is what life is all about. Meaning. And that requires consciousness. And the Hawaiians say that the gods, us, being made out of God, they would call us gods. The gods thirst for meaning and expression. And I've said that in here before, and I want to stress it. Consciousness wants for itself to unlock meaning and expression. And there's another saying in Huna that helps you to understand why. It says that God excuse me, I just had a memory lapse. The only thing a God needs is a mirror. The only thing that God needs is a mirror. Think about that for a minute. When I was in that place after I died and I was home, I came to understand that. I understood that God contains time. God is not contained by time. Think about that. God contains time. Time does not contain God. If time contained God, then time would be all that is. Can you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
And God contains time, and that was one of the most incredible awarenesses that I picked up in my death experience, that God contains time. And what that means when you're there is that time exists there. It's not that it doesn't exist. There, time does not flow. It's just all time that you're aware of at one moment. You are completely aware of everything, the beginning and the end, throughout all time. It's all there for you. You understand it. You know it. You know why you came here. You know where you came from. You know what your goal was to do when you were here. And this dimension of you that has the ability to do that, I have called the Christ light, because that's what it is. It's that light. Christ was a Greek word, and at one level it means the Messiah. But there's more than one meaning to Messiah. When Jesus was here, and he was later on referred to as the Christ, they were talking about a Messiah, somebody who is going to deliver them from the oppression of the Romans. It didn't mean what Christianity has turned it into today. They saw Jesus as being someone who is very special, who came through the house of David, and he was going to be the person who was going to free them from the Romans. Well, Jesus's message was very liberating and caught on big time among the poor people of the day. And that scared the hell out of the Romans. And it scared the hell out of the Pharisees, the Jews. But Jesus himself never intended to start a new religion. And I have studied this whole issue as much as I think it's possible to be studied, with reading every single ancient book that's come forward, all of these ancient documents that we now have that came from the time of Christ, some of whom were probably written by his original apostles. And Jesus never claimed to be the Son of God in the sense that the Bible brings him forward to now. Jesus was a rabbi. He called himself a rabbi. They ate only kosher food. They attended the temple on a regular basis. That's what Jesus did. He was a teacher in the temple.
Teacher of righteousness, right? That was his title.
Not then,
Oh, okay.
but today
That's
he's
how they-
referred to that way.
Okay.
But Jesus repeated something that was very powerful over and over. My Father and your Father are the same Father. Anything you can do, I can do, you can do, and even more. He continually was trying to tell his followers that they're divine. They're made out of God, and they are at one with one another. And it was very important for them to own their divinity. That's what got him crucified, because the Romans couldn't stand to hear that. For them, the only person who is divine was the emperor, and the Pharisees couldn't bear to hear that at all. And to them, it was blasphemy in the highest degree. But that's what Jesus's message was. And the Christ light was that message, that we're divine. And when we wake up to our divinity, all things are possible. When you wake up to your divinity, all things are possible. When you can own that who you are is made out of God, you still have to deal with the realm of the physical world. God is not going to violate the laws that he's created this world out of just for your personal convenience. But I can tell you that consciousness can find a way to do anything. And things can happen out of complete left field that you don't, oh, how's that going to happen? And boom, the next thing you know, it's happening. And we have a tendency as human beings to want to take too much credit. We got to make things happen. We got to do this. We got to do that. And we need this and we need that. The only thing God needs is a mirror. And so in this family, priesthood is about being of service to your brothers and sisters in the most loving way possible, because now we're emulating God. So I'm going to give you an equivalency here that is extremely important to get through. God equals love, which equals reality. God, love, and reality are all the same thing. Do you all get that? God, love, and reality. Love, the way Hawaiians define it, is the marriage of life and light. That's what the word aloha means. Marriage, lo, light, ha, life energy, the marriage of light and life. And where we have the marriage of where light is, life energy flows. Is there life on other planets where the conditions are appropriate? Certainly. Because wherever light and life exist, life energy is going to flow. And God's creation is going to take place. And there's no doubt in my mind that there are other civilizations out there that are far beyond our own. There's a lot of planets out there that have been around for millions of years, longer than ours. And as consciousness takes root in those planets, more and more capacity is unlocked. And the things that we do, putting satellites up in space, if any of you have an iPhone and you're talking on your cell phone, all of these things would have been something only dreamed about not very long ago.
Yeah, they're like considered miracles.
Yeah.
Way back.
Yeah. I can remember watching Star Trek, the TV series Star Trek, when I was, I guess that was college days, maybe. And, they'd have their little flip thing and they'd talk to the computer, and we're doing that now.
Yeah.
We're doing that now.
Now we just need to get the beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah, the beam me up, Scotty stuff. So that's the nature of God. God is constantly unfolding more and more capacity in consciousness. However, wherever unconsciousness exists, that has the ability to create a lot of pain the more consciousness has evolved a technology. So we're sitting here and we're talking over Zoom and we have all of this technological stuff. What other things do we have that are technologically advanced? How about things like nuclear weapons? But you know what hasn't advanced enough yet? Take a guess. What hasn't evolved is the human capacity to use that technology with love. Look at how much money all of the countries of the world are spending building nuclear bombs, weaponry, if all of that money was not going to those kinds of things, there wouldn't be any poverty in this world.
None.
So obviously, our capacity to be awakened and act like an enlightened being is not there yet. We've developed a technology that far outpaces our ability to use it safely. It's like giving a loaded gun to a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're at right now. There's a lot of loaded guns out there in the hands of people that, as far as I'm concerned, are less conscious than my grandsons when they were 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I would trust my grandsons today with a gun way more than I trust the leaders of the world with nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
That technology has the capability of destroying all life on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, God displays, we would say in Huna, in complementary and contrasting dualities. How does God determine to find meaning? Well, it happens when we have contrasting dualities. We have, I use the example all the time, the glass is, 30% full. Well, what does that mean? It has no meaning absent the idea of full and empty. Hi, John.
Hey,
So because of contrasting opposites, there is meaning. I can refer to a glass that's a third full, 2/3 full, whatever it happens to be, and there's meaning there. I understand it only because of contrasting opposites. Much of science is developed because we study the role of contrasting and complementary dualities. And when I say God equals love equals reality, all reality, there's a perfect reality. That's called God. God works in ways that are very predictable. Natural law. Our founding fathers talked about the creator spirit and natural law all the time. It's natural law that all human beings come from God and have sacred space. And if we don't respect someone's sacred space, what's going to happen? Pain, exactly. So what is God's way of causing us to learn how to use our technology and the gifts that God gives us appropriately? What does God do to make sure that we learn how to do that?
Gives us pain.
It's called pain.
We all know about pain. We've all had it.
God gives us pain. Why does God give us pain? Why does life look so miserable? Why can such evil things happen? Because sometimes it takes that kind of pain to wake us up, and we're all connected. Maybe that person who created that murderer, and they just discovered a cowboy chopped up and his body distributed in parts around some area of Texas. Guy was out checking on his cattle and didn't come home. Whoever did that, some mother who just last week chopped up her kids and put them in a plastic bag somewhere because it was a stepmother because she didn't want to have the stepchild in her life anymore. You know, how evil is that? And people will say, well, how does God stand for that kind of evil?
Mm-hmm.
Well, God doesn't create the evil, it's unconsciousness, our lack of awareness of where life energy flows, the love. And when the life energy can't flow because there's no light there, and there's no light when people do that kind of thing, it turns into pure pain. Now, there's people in prison who are just horribly evil people. And no matter how much pain they got, they're still attached to that spirit that drives them to do ugly things. That spirit is called a malu. We've talked about that before. And they have confused themselves with the malu to the point that they don't know who they are. And they create pain for all the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we know for sure about that? We know that we're all connected in the all that is, and what I do affects every other person on this earth. And when I talk to you about my death experience and being in the river of light and observing a replay of some of the things that I did in my life, and being able to see the effect that it had on not only that person, but that person then would take the energy I put out there and it would reflect itself in their energy towards someone else, and on and on and on, like throwing a rock in a lake and watching the ripples propagate away. You see that when you are there. And I think I kind of minimized, I don't know that it's possible to say it clearly enough what that's like. Somebody at the last meeting talked about folks who have that experience of walking through what I call the river of light and experiencing all of those issues. I think it comes across too light, not deep enough, because what you see when you're there penetrates to the very core of your existence and your effect on all human beings in this world. And not only the human beings that are alive right now, but the human beings that are going to be alive in the future. Your behavior affects all of that. And that's why in Huna, we pray at the Circle of Love altar that we've talked about. And one of the parts of that altar is in that prayer, we talk about being in harmony with all of our ancestors, what we call Aumakua, all of our ancestors. And all of our ancestors are there for us. And all of our ancestors behaved in a way that allowed us to be here. Without our ancestors, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't enjoy whatever we do have. Our ancestors were responsible enough to make sure that we grew up in better circumstances than they did. And are we doing the same for our descendants? Because at my altar, I'm using my feather and I go to my ancestors and I ask for inspiration and guidance so that I can make loving choices on behalf of my descendants. I owe my descendants the same love and consideration that my ancestors gave me. Is that not a powerful point to make when you're praying?
Mhm.
How many people pray like that? Older
Lona,
people do.
can I make
Go ahead, Gary.
well, it's just really interesting because I do a lot of genealogy work,
Mhm.
and I do work at the temple. But what's amazing is when I'm doing all this stuff, you see exactly how you are literally connected to everybody else.
Mhm.
Virtually every single country,
Yeah.
every single color, every single social status level, and it's all connected, and you can literally see it.
Mhm.
There
And
are
it's like,
several
so
people
I know that that's true.
yeah,
Mhm.
there are several people online right now, and if percentages are correct, at least three of the several people that are there have Neanderthal DNA.
That must be why I'm so screwed up.
But it's true. We're connected. We're connected to all kinds of species of human beings that don't even exist anymore.
Mhm.
And our bodies are made out of the experiences that those ancestors had. And when I do my functional medicine with people and I try to help people get healthy, one of the things I want them to watch is a video that I produced. And anybody who wants to get a copy of that video, or I'll be happy to send you a link. Just write me an email and let me know you're interested, and I'll be happy to send that to you. But it talks about where we came from and why our bodies are built the way we are and what it takes to be healthy. And I got news for you. It's not what a lot of our conventional medicine tells us we should be eating or doing.
Mhm.
It doesn't, you're not going to be healthy. And there is where we have human arrogance again, the human arrogance that wants to look at God in an anthropomorphic way, look at your religion as being right and everybody else's religion is wrong. To the extent we do that to one another in this world, the bottom line is that we are all connected. We are all coming from the same place. And that God that we are made out of, there's an interface between that God and who we think we are here in this dream, and it's called the Christ light. And the Christ light is your personality forged out of Godhood, your true personality. And your personality is unique. And it is here before time ever came into existence, and it will be here after time. When you die and you go to the spirit world, you will be you. Now, does that mean that here you're not unconscious and you're not wise at times and you do silly things? Sure. But that's here in this dream. And we come here on purpose to experience how to imagine that we're not divine. We imagine that we're not divine so that we can appreciate our divinity. It's that contrasting duality thing. You come here and you're afraid your life is over at death. Well, it's not over. It's a transition. Every death is a birth, and every birth is a death. Can you get that?
Mhm.
Yeah, we all live to die.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And so when we're home, we are at one with everything. We recognize it. We are the Christ light. But we have a dream and we come here and we imagine that we're not divine. We imagine that we're not smart. We imagine that we're not all the things that make our divinity such an incredible experience. And when we imagine all that stuff, it could get pretty terrifying. That's where fear comes in. We wind up in fear. And there's no peace. And yet when we're home and we're in touch with who we really are, there's perfect peace. And that dimension of you that is the divine dimension loves you unconditionally. The one thing that Christianity has going for it that's important is how it's constantly talking about how Jesus loves you, and Jesus invite him into your life, and Jesus can create miracles. All of that's true, except that Jesus isn't a man who lived 2,000 years ago. Jesus, if you will, the Jesus they're talking about is the Christ light that you are when you're not trapped in this body, in this dream here. And that you, that divine you, that Christ light that loves you unconditionally.
Mhm.
And
I
that's
got a
what,
question. I got a question.
yeah,
Seems like in this little R reality that we're living in, we have a lot of contrast, like good and evil, and so
Mhm.
forth. You know, the four-headed dragon. Could it also be that the big R reality must exist, only exist if there's a little R reality also? In other words, one has to have the other to be able to, I guess,
Yes.
be of value, or to be able to prove its value. Like you said, when we go up into the big R reality and we're in the blackness of just pure consciousness, and it's just perfect love, everything, and we know everything, and basically we're experiencing our godness. That gets pretty boring. It's almost like we have to
Mhm.
come back to this little R reality to make all of it make sense
exactly. And
and
that's
to
what I
appreciate
said.
it.
Yeah.
What was it? It was 2 or 3 weeks ago during our Ohana meeting that I mentioned to the group that when I was there, I was taken into an area and I realized that the spiritual world can be absolutely boring, boring beyond your
Yeah.
capacity to deal with it. You know everything. There's no growth. There's
Right.
no ability to have any expression because it's all there. You know the beginning from the end. There's no surprises. It's like watching a video or a movie that you know the end and
Yeah.
watch it
Let me ask a question, Lono, if I can.
5,000th time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then what is your purpose on that other side? Why do you exist? What is your purpose then?
Well,
Let's begin with you exist. And then the purpose is to unlock meaning and have a mirror of how big you are. That's the purpose.
What about teaching
Yeah.
others through experience?
Oh, absolutely. That's the mirror, isn't it?
I think one of the things that we're most awed by, you know, when I was little, I had a telescope and I look up the stars, and of course, then I had no idea how big things were.
Mhm.
And now that we got the web and we can see out, 20 some odd, actually more than that, like 90 billion years, which doesn't make much sense if the universe is only 27 billion years old. It's been doubled by the latest.
Mm-hmm.
But what we have to understand within Christianity, the whole idea is that God is omnipresent, omniscient, infinite, so forth. Well, if it's infinite, that means that the universe is infinite. It goes on forever and ever and ever. And we're just seeing a little bit of it. And the possibilities in the infinite time, which is outside of God or contained by God, just think of how many experiences we can have within the time frame of the little r reality. If there's trillions and trillions of galaxies and trillions of stars within most of those galaxies, and then those stars have trillions and trillions of little planets like Earth,
Yeah.
where we can just spend eternity going back and forth
Going.
between all these little
Yeah.
orbs and living this same experience, however, with in a different body,
Mm-hmm.
with different senses even. Right now we got 5 senses and so forth. Just think how awesome that is, that we have, if we want to live within the little r reality time frame, the time space continuum, we can do it. It's awesome. There's not a word that describes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not only looking out there at all of the stars,
Possibility.
the planets, and all of that stuff, but even here in this world, when you realize that time is not absolute,
Right.
we can be born into another dream. I can come back as a Mongolian warlord. I can come back as a person who is a astronaut, 2,000 years from today. How many people are in the world? And every one of us are living in a different world.
Mm-hmm.
My world is not the same as Gary's. The world is not the same as John's. My world is not the same as my son Jason, who's probably going, thank God, right now. It's we're all living in a different world, and we can come back and be in any of those worlds, and worlds that we don't even imagine.
Right.
Can you guys really visualize Lono as a Mongolian warlord?
Absolutely. I've eaten over at his house, and the way he eats is obviously he's a Mongolian warlord.
Well, I guess the point, God is a 3-letter word, but it is absolutely equal to love. It's the exact same thing, exactly the same thing. And I would encourage you to ponder on what that can possibly mean, how God and love can be the same thing. And then we're going to throw the third thing in there, which is reality with the big R. God is reality. So what does science try to do? What's the whole point of science?
To observe the little r reality and understand the little r reality.
The physical world. That's what they're.
Yeah, and it makes inroads into the unseen too, through supposed quantum theory, to the extent that that's true. That, in fact, that's how I probably came to the realization that I was an eternal spiritual being, was through the insights of quantum mechanics and quantum realities of the fact that we're energy beings, that we're eternal energy beings. And where does that energy come from? That is God.
Pretty amazing.
Consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. So science is studying the little r in order to approach the big R.
Well, it led me there.
Mhm.
Yes. And the big R, that the reality, the nature of reality, is not only just about God, but all the aspects of God. Why? And that's why we say in Huna, belief is necessary only for that which is not real, with the big R. Belief is necessary only for that which is not real. That which is real is available by recognizing it, and it works reliably and flawlessly. What does that mean? It works reliably and flawlessly. Is that not, John, you're a scientist, is that not the definition of what we're looking for when we do a scientific experiment? We want to observe it. Does it work? Does it work reliably and flawlessly? Because if it doesn't work in some area, then what, as a scientist, I know in biochemistry, if something is not working, it means that my way of looking at how the parts are interacting is not real. With a capital R.
Yep. I mean, in science, we're always looking at different paradigms, trying to explain what we're seeing, the little R reality. And what's interesting is how many human beings and scientists are willing to ignore the facts from the experiments when they don't agree with their worldview.
Yeah.
That's religion.
We've seen that over and over and over again.
Or
They don't want to let go of this their little R reality belief system that makes them comfortable and secure.
And that's
they've
when
already made
becomes a
they've already
religion.
made a conclusion,
Yeah.
and they're collecting data to prove what their conclusion already is.
Well, we
So-
see that in Christianity too, in archaeology, that archaeologists tend, we've seen it over and over again, that people ignore the evidence that contradicts their worldview, but they hold fast to that which supports their worldview, even if it's a lie and a
Crazy.
provable.
Will they call that a white elephant?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we saw that when COVID was here, because a lot of the doctors came out and talked about the danger of the shot, and they were kicked off the internet.
They
And a
were
lot of
throwing
them-
up red flags everywhere.
Yeah, and they got kicked off the internet, and a lot of them lost their license, and yet they were being real, but it didn't fall in line with the perspectives of the people who were selling the drugs and the government who wanted the money from letting them sell the drugs.
Yeah.
And
Profit
so people
and
ended
control.
up, but now it's coming to light more and more how dangerous the drugs were, because a lot of people are dying who took the drug, and they're finding these long things in their veins from the shot that is, I don't know what you call those.
Amyloid plaques.
Yes,
Yeah,
amyloid plaques, and showing how dangerous the drugs were, the shots. And the people still want to ignore it, and they're talking about giving more shots. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but that's where science becomes a religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I define a religion as any way of looking at the world that requires belief. And when you're looking at the world in a way that requires belief, it's because that religion promulgating a dogma. Dogma is
Didn't you mention, I thought it was great, I think it was last week, the definition of an idiot.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now someone committed to an ideology and not willing to let go of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And, here we have these brilliant people that are presidents of Harvard University or whatever, and they operate in government, and they're doing, they have this incredible, the people who develop the social media outlets, the Zuckerbergs and all of those people. They're brilliant people, or they wouldn't have ever accomplished what they did. But they're idiots. They are captured by an ideology that does not allow them to see what's real.
Rational.
Well, the reality The reality is that the Zuckerbergs and those folks didn't do anything to develop those platforms. Those were developed by DARPA and then handed over to the civilian population. And those people were just figureheads that were put in control. And
Right.
those figureheads are probably controlled by the government, the deep state, whatever you want to say, to
That's true.
do what the deep state wants through those facilities.
And the people who are constructing all of these little nefarious groups are intelligent. Many of them
Well, they have to be because they're becoming millionaires by screwing people over. So
Yeah.
in their view, anyway, they're like, that's success. So
Mhm.
what if I screw everybody up and create millions of problems? People lose their jobs. They can't go to school, take their kids to school, on and on, you know?
Well, they're psychotic. They're psychotic.
Yeah.
But now we've got to, as family, we have got to take the next step here. And that is to realize that these people are not bad, wrong, or evil. They are unconscious.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's why they're doing what they're doing. They
Exactly.
think
I
that
thought you were going to say, Lono, buy more ammo.
Shooting buggers.
is that the solution to unconsciousness?
Well, yeah, it'll certainly create it.
I think there's one thing that I also want to mention right now that's important, and that is this nature of love. And there's a lot of people out there that talk about turning the other cheek, and our job is to just accept the abuse and not to argue, and that's Christ-like. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's complete bullshit.
No reality in that.
The truth is that love is always a win-win deal. Love works.
Mhm.
And when somebody is not behaving lovingly, if somebody is invading your sacred space with the intention of taking advantage of you or hurting you, out of love, you have an absolute requirement to deliver pain to that person who's doing that. Just
Inflict pain.
God delivers
Yeah,
pain.
and that's where the ammo comes in, Lona.
That's right.
I
It's
have
like, I know how to tell you this. I need to inflict pain because I'm concerned about you. Bang.
I have the AR-15 in this department, just an
There you
FYI.
go.
Hi, guys.
Okay. I'm going to get along with her, okay?
I'm
Melissa-
fully locked and loaded. Don't mess with me.
You realize the Chinese are recording all this, so now they know you
Oh,
have one.
crap.
You know what I say to them? Bring it.
Bring it
Yeah,
on. Yep.
really.
No,
That's it.
I'm
the message-
divinely protected.
Yeah,
The message is loud and clear, Lodo. I think we get it.
I think
Yeah,
so.
well, I
Can you
just,
hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi, it's Michelle. I had to join by phone because I have to do things, but
Oh, hi, Michelle.
I just wanted to say thank you for saying what you just said, because that's where I think I've been stuck in standstill and
Right.
confusion. It's trying to figure out whether or not I don't know. I just
Paralyzed?
well, but it's the not giving something meaning, therefore it's the whole not buying into the illusion, staying in the big R reality, but then not taking action allows the unconscious to do more harm being unconscious, and on and on and on, and yet I lose. It's my cost. It's a cost to me and to what I'm trying to be up to. And this has gone on for years, and I've been in so many different conversations with, even someone who I think was claiming to be from Mu, which was, the Lemurians. So this is the first time, and I thank you for saying that.
Well, you're very welcome, and it's I just think it's important. I've been doing this for the better part of over 30 years.
Yeah.
Since I was ordained a kahuna in Hawaii. And I've watched a lot of cultural ideas come and go. And I looked at, I was very popular when people heard me speak that were from the New Age movement, right up until the time they would hear some of these kinds of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I was not popular in the New Age movement any longer.
Mm.
The idea that we can just focus on what we want and pin checks for $1 million to my lampshade, stick into the ceiling so that I can think about being wealthy. That movie, The Secret, goes on with that all the time. I considered that to be a very evil movie. And afterwards, Lonnie and I counseled a lot of people who actually, not a lot, but there were several who were thinking about committing suicide because they were doing all that stuff and it wasn't working. And it was reinforcing inside of them the idea that God didn't love them, that there was something fundamentally wrong with them, that God wouldn't work in their life like he's working in everybody else's life. It was baloney. It's not true. And thank God that God doesn't always give us what we want. There's that Garth Brooks song that I brought up when I talked about this before. Thank God for unanswered prayers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really important that we understand that just because we want something doesn't mean that divine place that loves us unconditionally is going to give it to us.
Yeah.
He says no sometimes.
Yeah.
Well,
because God loves us.
Yeah.
He says no when we're just when we're not allowing our intuition to actually make the correct requests. When we're asking for us selfishly, for our little r reality person versus the wisdom of our divine self, and letting our intuition ask what it needs. And one of the things that comes out from what you were saying is that the Joel Osteens and his son, they run that big church down in Houston. It's the prosperity gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you do the right thing, you're going to be prosperous and so forth. And that's such a lie. That's exactly what we're talking about here.
Exactly.
So that's infiltrated the Christian church.
Yeah.
And now I think maybe 30% of the churches actually still talk about, even open the Bible. The other 70% are just have been taken over by the deep state and the CIA, basically, and they preach the gospel that they want, which is the prosperity gospel.
Mm-hmm.
There's a verse in Timothy that talks about in the last days, teachers will talk to you with itching ears, to those with itching ears. So they're telling you what you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. And they're also trading in fear. What they can't get through the prosperity doctrine, then they'll scare the hell out of you. You're going to go to hell for time and all eternity. I can remember when I was a little boy and, being in the Catholic Church and was an altar boy and all of that, and hearing these talks about the devil and burning in hell for time and all eternity. And that did a lot of psychological damage to me. Maybe you could tell. But
I guess I can. That's why you lost all your hair.
Yeah, that's a very good
why
point.
you lost yours, John.
Exactly. That's why I relate.
I would wake up in the morning in the monastery with having had a nocturnal emission. And, when that happens to kids, you'll have a dream and it'll be a sexual dream. And that dream will cause you to have an ejaculation. And then you wake up and you notice your pants are messy. And now I'm going to go to hell. and I would have nightmares the next night. And I had these nightmares of these little red demons with horns and pitchforks and a little triangle thing on the end of a table. And
So Lona, is that when you decided you wanted to be a Mongolian warlord?
yeah, and my grandma had a stove like I have in my kitchen today here on the ranch that you put coal in, and you take the lid off and you look down in there and there's a hot burning coal. And in my dream, these little devils would be jumping around on the coal, and that's where I was headed. And I needed to get to church to be able to confess my sins and my unworthiness and my weakness and all of that stuff. And it's
what a destructive process.
Yeah.
And now at this age, we pray for those dreams again.
Huh?
Now at this age, we pray for those dreams again.
That's true. It's like, wow,
great,
Lona
John, that was great.
Lona was lucky. I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
You were lucky. So, you know, people, these religions are designed to scare the hell out of people. If you do what we tell you to do, you'll be worthy and you'll wind up with the prosperity.
Yeah.
And of course, tithing goes along with that. I think tithing is important, it's appropriate, and I hope we can develop a council of elders that do pay tithing, because it's going to be the only thing that's going to allow this family to have the money we need to continue on. It costs a lot of money to do this every month. I don't know if you guys all realize what all the software and everything costs, but it's $1,000 a month. And Lonnie and I depend on your contributions in order to be able to continue on. But there's a difference between wanting to support a family that is doing very, very well by other people, trying to help them come aboard, solve their problems, that sort of thing, and telling people that if you don't pay tithing, you're going to go to hell. If you don't pay tithing, you're not going to be wealthy. You have to pay tithing in order to be able to become wealthy, and the stuff that I heard in various religions as I went along. And I don't want to contribute money to a church because I've been scared into it. And I don't want you to give us any donations because you are afraid and you think you need to in order to be able to be a worthy person. If you do that, you haven't been listening to these classes. That's not what this is about. Your donations are a free will offering that you want to pay attention to this message because you think it's important to get out to the world. That's the only reason you make a donation. Simple as that.
And we thank you for all the donations you've made. You guys have been very generous and we really appreciate it a lot. I was going to share something. One thing I do that helps me get to the big R is I always say, am I in light, love, peace, and joy? That's my 4 words, light, love, peace, and joy. And if I don't feel I'm in light, love, peace, and joy, then I know there's some place where I'm unconscious and I'm in my little R. Because when I get to the big R, then I'm in that place of just in harmony with everything, joyful about life, feeling good, no fear. And that's what I look at. So any area of my life where I don't feel that light, love, peace, and joy, I focus on it to see what little R I've got because I'm not in the big R. And so that's just a little skill I have that really helps me stay joyful every day and so excited to be alive and so happy that life is the way it is. And there's a place where we all have our little R's. Oh, he's gone. restroom. We all have our little R's because of where we were programmed. I was programmed, and a lot of times our little R's start when we're still in the womb. I mean, when I was really clearing out this energy in my life when I was in Hawaii, I found that I was carrying energy from the time I was born from my mother and when I was in her womb, because I was 9 months with my mother before I was born. And she was a place of fear about money and anger. And so when I was born, the first breath I took, I had fear and anger in my life. And I didn't even realize it wasn't me because it was what I was when I was born. And it took me till I was in my 30s and 40s to realize I'm not an angry and fearful person. I had just taken on that energy from my mother, and I had dealt with it all my life, struggling and trying to get through it. And eventually I found out that it wasn't even my energy. I'd just taken it on. And so I was able to let it go. So it's important to realize that everybody we've been with in our life, whether it's our parents, our teachers, society, we take on that energy, and it creates unconsciousness in our lives. If that person has an unconscious pattern and I take it on and it becomes my pattern, it's easy to get rid of when you realize it's not my pattern. It's a pattern I took on from someone else in my life, and I don't need to carry it anymore. I'm a divine being. I can be in light, love, peace, and joy all the time, 100%, but I've got to notice every day. And so I'm very conscious of seeing what my energy is in every now about the things in my life. And as I see that I'm not in that place, I look at what the belief is that I have that's not real, because that's what you're looking for. And that's what you need to change to get back into the big R.
They can prove everything you just said, Lonnie, now scientifically.
Yeah.
I've been studying it, habits, which are programs you run, and you start taking on things. Even hormones go into your body as a baby before you're born. So what you said was your mom was stressed out about finances and stuff like. She was literally releasing hormones into your system.
Right.
And that's how you got that. You recognize it shortly after you're born, actually. And throughout your life, the first 7 years, all you're basically in a program mode, direct to your subconscious. Everything you see and who you're around, your environment, the people you're hanging out with, your parents. Unfortunately, you get the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And so if you got dysfunctional parents, you take that program onto yourself. This is stuff I'm dealing with as well. And first thing is, and you hit it on the nail, you have to be aware. It's like, why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this way? I don't have to,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so it's a real challenge, but it sounds like you got over the hurdle and it's made a big difference for you.
Well, the big thing that helped me was a peyote meeting. When I went into my first peyote meeting, I cried for probably 3 to 4 hours. And all the Native Americans were looking at me and like going, is she okay? And the medicine man would go, just let her do it. And I cried for 3 or 4 hours, all the pain from my childhood on up that I had carried inside and I hadn't let out because I didn't know it was there. I was unconscious about it. And so to get all that stuff out, I felt like I'd been reborn by the end of it because that was all gone. And one thing that happened when I was in the first peyote meeting, or one of the first, I'd had a bad cold. And you're not allowed to take stuff into the peyote meeting. You just go in and do your thing. Well, I hid a bottle of water to take in because I was worried I was going to start coughing and not be able to stop, because that's one of the things that had been happening to me. I was coughing a lot and I didn't want to disturb the meeting. So I stuck a tiny bottle of water into my pocket. Well, when I went into that meeting and the meeting started, that water disappeared. And I could not find that water anywhere during the peyote meeting until the peyote meeting was over, and there it was right there behind me. And yet it wasn't there during the peyote meeting, and you were talking about
Miracles.
things disappearing and reappearing, and I thought, that's a miracle and it was like I wasn't supposed to drink water in that peyote meeting. It was so wild to me that I couldn't find that water, and I looked everywhere for it. And there it was at the end of the meeting when it was all done and everybody was getting up to walk out. There it was right there. It was wild.
So Lono, I think you ought to create some kind of miracle compound that you could put in a pill and that will do things that Lanny's experienced.
Well, I do. I have them, but you don't take them.
Yeah, but the one that's labeled peyote/bong hits, I don't take those. So
Well, you know, I
maybe
have,
that's my problem.
Yeah.
I have to say this about Lonnie. If I were anybody out there, I would pay close attention to what she says, because this woman is a living saint. She is. She's a living saint. And I get to live with her every day. And no matter what else is going on in life, no matter how broke we are, no matter how many problems we've got, when I got thrown in jail, she was there for me. The bottom line is that she's a living saint, and she's constantly bringing a spirit of light, love, peace, and joy into our lives. And I am just absolutely grateful. She's my pill in a bottle.
I think you ought to share the wealth.
Well, I am. That's what we're doing here
That's
right
right.
now.
Lonnie, do you have a sister?
No.
I'm kidding. I'm
Sorry.
just kidding.
You're funny.
Okay.
Well, it's time, 7:30.
I just want to summarize by saying that God, reality, and love are the same thing. How you can tell if it's a big R or a little r is if you can't fit it into that paradigm of God, reality, and love, then it's the little r. And it's important that each of us recognize that when something is real with a capital R, it works. It works. And I've had this thing, I just want to say this. I've had this come back where people will say, well, if you really love somebody, you wouldn't punish them in some way, shape, or form. Like we had parents, how often we dealt with parents who have come to the belief that somehow it's not appropriate to discipline your children. And I think that's one of the most unloving things you can do to your kids. And yeah, and we've had dynamics where a kid has been totally out of control, and we've told the parent to take the child and isolate it. You know, we're counseling the parents, and the kid's out there screaming and yelling and wants attention. And you tell the parent to put the kid in their room and not allow them to come out till they learn how to be sociable. You know, that's what, by the way, the Hawaiians did to criminals. If somebody was determined to be a criminal, what they would do is they would teach them the value of society. And they would paddle them out on a canoe to an island that they couldn't get off of. You know, it's shark-infested waters, no boats around. And they'd dump them off into the ocean. If they made it to shore, great. If they didn't make it to shore, too bad. And then when they were on that island, the only other people that were there were people like them and who had a bad attitude. And there was no 3 meals a day. There was no ability to have anything provided for you. And very quickly, those people figured out the value of a society.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we don't do that in this world. And I think it's to our detriment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a limit to which people should be allowed to harm other people. And if they keep continuing to do it and they don't want to learn, then the job is to put them someplace where they, and that's the other thing I want to say. In terms of delving out pain to people who are violating your sacred space, you do it in love, not anger. When I disciplined my kids, there was a couple of times I lost it. I'm sure Jason will probably be able to
Agree.
but generally speaking, my goal was to love. I would sit down with the kids and I would say, look, this doesn't work. This behavior doesn't work. And because you continue to do this, this is going to be your punishment. And it wasn't out of anger. It wasn't that I felt that I needed to slap them around and vent anger on them. It's not about that at all. It was loving them, helping them to understand a higher way of being. And I'm proud of both of my kids today. They both accomplished so much.
Mm-hmm.
And they far exceed me in many ways. And isn't that a parent's dream?
Mm-hmm.
It's my dream. I'm so happy that that has been the case. So when we've done that as a parent, we've done our job.
I think it's important that you mention that there were steps that you would have with that person who was antagonistic toward the society to give them a chance to become back part of the society before you dropped them off on the island.
Yeah.
And I also have the question, if Jason hadn't stood in line, where's the island you would have dropped him?
Well, I just make sure that he ejects at 30,000 feet in a jet plane, several hundred miles an hour.
Well, he's done that.
Yeah, he's done that.
He's done that. Yeah.
That definitely produced, Jason, you can chime in here if you'd like.
That's a humbling experience for sure.
Was that a humbling experience?
It was. That's a long story for some other time.
Yes, it is.
It was a humbling experience. Pain is our ally. 'Cause
Yeah.
when people are in pain, they're looking for other perspectives.
I'll tell you the one thing I wish that people would get faster is women who get hooked up with guys who are not the kind of person that's ready for a relationship with a goddess.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of goddesses that I run into out there that keep getting themselves involved with these guys that are horrible people. And it's just a shame. And they go back and they go back and they go back. And it happens the other way around too, where guys get hooked up with some gal
Woman, yeah.
who's a walking source of pain.
Karen.
Yeah, you just need to learn from your lessons and move on and not allow yourself to get hooked into an emotional decision to stay with somebody who is not loving you. And if you don't value yourself higher than that, then you're going to wind up with somebody like Gary. And then what the hell are you going to do?
Well, and I was just going to ask you, Lono, it's like, how about you give me a list of the good ones? I know how to use a phone. I can email. I'm technically capable.
Well, I get it. I understand.
That is until you tell them about me, then that pretty much screws everything.
Yeah.
Oh.
I do tell people about you, and always in the highest terms, Gary, because
Yeah.
I see you as one of the most beautiful people I've ever known.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And the $20 is in the mail.
Really, it's the company you keep. It's called the dogs. That's what makes you valuable.
And John, I feel the same way about you. I wrote you an email earlier this week because I wanted you to know how much I appreciate
It was appreciated.
and your support, and you know, you've been a friend that I've been able to count on in difficult times from the time we met, and I love you and I appreciate you. And you guys are the kind of people that I would really love to have be at the core of this family in a formal way at some point when you're ready. And I think with people like you and Melissa, she's another one,
Yeah, she's
and of course
great.
my son Jason. And I just, you know, you get a team like that put together behind are supporting this family, and the sky's the limit. We can change the world.
Yep, we are.
So
One.
with that said, how's the snow situation up there?
Oh, it's melting, but it's we still have a lot. We got 3 feet,
Yeah, I know
Whoa.
everyone was up
at
there.
least 3 feet.
What do you
Wow.
think, 2 or 3 weeks?
And maybe, no, it's melting pretty fast. The areas where I shoveled, I can already see dirt. But the
Yeah.
areas that haven't been shoveled, it's collapsing down to about maybe 1.5 feet now. So,
Wow.
Okay.
and there's going to be some warm days. So I think in another week, it's going to be great. I mean, the roads are all clear except for our driveway.
Yeah, not our driveway.
Our driveway.
We
is
still
a
need
mess.
4-wheel drive to get in and out of here.
Yeah.
But the
Main
county roads are
all
in pretty
clear.
good shape now.
Yeah, they're all good for driving.
Yeah, maybe first week of April before I'm able to get up there, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
That'd be great.
It'd
Look
be
forward
nice
to
to
it.
see you. Good.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Any other
Excuse me?
questions or comments?
You guys rocked.
Thank you, Gary.
We appreciate it. We'll let you know how Rosie is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
She
keep an
just
eye
doesn't-
on her and
Yeah, we may need to take
temperature
her.
of food, make sure
Yeah.
she's going to the bathroom okay, and
Right.
check her stools a little bit once in a while.
Yeah.
So good
Yeah.
luck. Another informative meeting. Good stuff.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you so much, everybody. You done?
So if she does have puppies, who wants one?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay,
Are you-
good. I'm keeping one male because I told Rocky if he got her pregnant, he has to come back in one of the puppies.
If he did, he is super dog because he
Yeah.
did the impossible. All right.
He couldn't, there's no way he could get on her, so I don't know, but I told him,
Plus, he's probably looking at her and go, You're kind of a dark color.
yeah, we'll see what happens, but we'll let you know. We're a little worried about
Yeah.
her. She's really changed her behavior, but I
Yeah.
looked at the YouTube videos and they say that happens. So we're
Mm.
kind of watching what the vets on YouTube are saying.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you about that. There was a vet on YouTube that says that when a dog comes out of heat, she'll either be pregnant or she'll have a false pregnancy.
They can have a false pregnancy, actually.
Yeah.
They'll actually gain weight and they'll bag up like they're having puppies coming.
Oh,
And then you sit there and you wait and you wait and you wait. Then you take and go get an ultrasound and they go, there's nothing in
up in
here.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
So we
And
need to check on that.
so
We
if
can talk
something
about
happens
that
to
after
the
the-
hormones and it triggers them to
Yeah.
do all these other biological things.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Well,
we'll watch her.
we're thinking that's what, like, she doesn't even want to be in here with us tonight.
She's
Yeah,
on
it's
the
kind of
vent.
weird because that is not like her.
No, not at all.
Mm.
Not at all. So we'll keep an eye. We'll take her to the vet if we're still a little concerned because
Just keep an eye on it.
yeah.
Well,
She's
we-
wondering why she didn't get none.
Yeah. Yeah. She's probably
She's like-
depressed.
He's like, I feel pregnant, but I don't remember the other part.
Yeah, right.
She drank too much one night.
Yeah,
I want to close with a prayer.
that sounds good.
Oh, Aumakua, we're so grateful for you and our lives, for the ability that we have to get this message and to understand that you're there for us, that you love us unconditionally, and that our lives are meant to unlock magic. thank you for the magic that is Huna, the perspectives that we get to share because of it. And bless all of our family that they can go on about their week, have harmony and peace, and enjoy being a source of light in our world. And we ask your blessing humbly in a spirit of unconditional love, the spirit of aloha. Aho.
Amen.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody. It's so good to see you all tonight, and we look forward to next week.
Love you guys.
Love you. And be
Love-
aware we're available
Thank
for
you.
counseling for anybody who needs some Huna perspectives.
And Michelle, I think I've got the appointment thing working. So if you want to try to book an appointment using that site, let me know. And if it doesn't work, let me know. I wish.
Yeah, will do.
Okay.
Good to know. Thank you.
All right.
Good night. Aloha, everybody.
See you
Aloha.
guys.
Aloha.
Uh,
Bye.
bye.